Hey there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide and the co-founder of EnglishAnyone.com, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to another advanced English listening practice lesson. I always want to give this little note at the beginning of these lessons, just in case you are new to the channel. I highly recommend you first enjoy a lot of the other videos on our channel so you can get used to the sound of my voice, because I will be speaking much more quickly in these lessons. So if you're all ready to get started, let's jump right into the lesson. Actually, I want to talk about something quite different. Actually, maybe not so different, but really it's just talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, something that I really wanted to make clear to you, and this is about how to practice when you're speaking. Now, the way I used to think about studying Japanese, and I can go even further back when I was, failing at learning French in high school and then failing at learning Spanish in college, so I really had I had no success with learning languages at all, and even when I began learning Japanese, I was really awful at doing that. So even when I came to Japan, I was in Japan and in classes, even though I was only doing classes for a couple of hours because I hated it. But, I was in there, so I took classes, and even though I'm in the country, I still couldn't speak. Now, maybe you can relate to this if you're a person that's living in a native English-speaking country, like you're a foreigner living in America and you've been there for many years and you still can't speak and still can't understand people. You're probably studying the same way I was. Maybe you got flashcards and grammar books and all those other things. But there was kind of one idea I wanted to share with you that it really started to change the way I studied and change the way I thought about learning. And this is kind of the whole foundation of my teaching philosophy. And, even though in these lessons I like to talk about different things, like interesting books or, other kinds of stuff like that, I actually thought I'd talk about language learning in this one. So I guess that makes sense as an educator of English. But anyway, let's get right into it. So I want you to think about one idea, and I'm just going to ask you a simple question. If you could do something other than studying English right now, or I guess I can put it as, what would you do right now if you weren't studying English or if you didn't have to study English? So what would you do if you didn't have to study English? When people think about studying languages, especially when you have to do it in a school, people think about, well, I've got to do this. I have to get my grammar book, or I have to, do these reading exercises or whatever it is, and it's not fun. It's, just a regular school subject like everything else. Now, the way education happens in general is the same for language learning as it is for other things. You try to memorize rules and see if you can remember those at test time, and then you're not really learning to use things quickly and without thinking when you speak, whether it's, grammar rules or math rules or whatever. You're just kind of learning how to pass tests so that you can, get a good job or whatever it is you're trying to do. But if you're thinking about, when you're imagining yourself at school, maybe you're out of school, it doesn't matter. But, if you're in school and you're thinking about studying and you have this idea of oh, I really don't want to study, I hate studying or whatever. Maybe you do like studying, but most people would rather be doing something else. So while you're studying or thinking about that, you'd rather be doing something else. And that's the rather be doing something, assuming you're part of that majority of people that really doesn't like studying so much, at least the traditional way of studying, just sitting in a textbook, looking like this and trying to read something and review it and try to memorize lists and things like that. So what would you rather do instead of studying? And most people have pretty good ideas about that. Well, I'd rather be playing basketball. I'd rather be going fishing. I'd rather be whatever that thing is. Now, what I'd like you to do is take that thing that you'd rather be doing and do that in English. Now, this is a really simple idea, but most people don't really get to the point where they'd rather be doing something, because they always think about, well, the study of the language is awful, so I don't want to do anything having to do with the language at all. But if you reverse this idea and you think, what would I rather be doing instead of studying? And you've probably got a lot of great ideas. It's cooking, basketball, sports, or knitting, or whatever the thing is. Then if you do that thing in English, that's what's going to help you get fluent, and that's what's going to motivate you to learn. So when I started doing that, I actually came to Japan to learn Japanese gardening. And if you're new to the channel, maybe you don't know my story. I won't go into the details of it here. But when I was coming to Japan, one of the things I was able to do is find a Japanese gardening teacher who was able to teach me, and he didn't speak any English, I didn't speak any Japanese, but here we are trying to communicate with each other and using the language because we're both passionate about that same thing. So I wanted to learn, he wanted to teach, and he was able to show me things using physical examples, and it wasn't really a language lesson like you're getting when you're sitting in a classroom. It was in context, in the situation, and that's what got me excited to learn and excited to practice. So it's not so much about having like motivation to do, you know, particular language learning thing. It's particular motivation for whatever the real thing is you want to study. But if you tie the language learning, if you connect the language learning to that thing, that's what's really going to help you get fluent. So right now, what I'd like you to do is think about what you'd rather do than study. And now think about how you can do that thing in English. So let's say you enjoy sailing. I hate studying English. I'd rather, you know, instead of like watching English videos, I'd rather be sailing outside. Find some people that are English speakers and go sailing with them. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult. Most of the time you can find people right here on YouTube that have, you know, other videos, that this kind of thing. Now, I know like I have a YouTube channel and I'm grateful that people do watch and enjoy the videos. They benefit from them. But I also want you to not watch so many of my videos. And this is weird as a YouTuber telling you to do that, but please don't watch so many of my videos or other people producing English lessons. As you start getting to understand, you start getting the knack of something, K-N-A-C-K, to get the knack of something. This is a common conversational way of saying that you're starting to understand it and you're starting to get more comfortable, to get the knack of that thing, or get a handle on that thing. These are two great ways of saying that. So I'm starting to get a handle on Japanese when I'm first starting to practice it and get comfortable with it. So in either of these situations, I want you to think about how you can find that thing and then practice that by, you know, using the language in that situation. So instead of watching my videos or, you know, another English channel where you're just watching people explaining grammar points or something like that, what I'd like you to do is think about the interest that you have and then look for other channels on YouTube that are for English learners. So if you speak Russian, don't type in, you know, like Russian and then look for people that are talking about sailing. Look for like, I want to learn about sailing or how to do this, and then watch people like that. And so you begin by just getting the listening from that. And then in the comments, you're asking other people who are presumably, probably interested in that same thing. And you can say, hey, how did you get interested in sailing? Or, you know, how did you get interested in this other thing? And then those comments become friendships, and then you begin communicating with each other and you make friends, and that's how you improve in the language. Now, this is exactly what I did when I was starting to learn. Well, actually, not when I was starting to learn. When I was starting to learn, I did, you know, the stupid way of learning, which is trying to learn a textbook, and that took me actually like many months of struggling to do that. But it was when I actually connected with that teacher, and I didn't find my Japanese gardening teacher right when I came to Japan. It was like, I don't know, I guess a few months afterwards, but up until that point, I was trying to study the language the wrong way. So I didn't enjoy myself, and I wasn't having fun learning the language. I was really frustrated. But when I started to do that and think about, well, how can I actually do the Japanese gardening while learning the language? And while I was thinking about that, it just seemed, you know, it seemed like a quite easy thing to do. And when people care about something, they find a way to figure out how to do it. So even if you're not great at it, it doesn't matter what you're interested in doing, but think about something you enjoy doing and then just do that in English. So whatever you'd rather be doing right now, if maybe you think this video is boring right now, you're like, man, I hate this video. I wish like right now I would rather be playing soccer. Then go play soccer with some English speakers. I'm sure you could find some. I'm sure like their English speakers are all over the world. And when people say, well, there's like none in my area or whatever, like, I mean, hey, English is the most, you know, it's like of all the different languages that are spoken, you're most likely to find an English speaker somewhere in the world. Now, for my case, you know, maybe it was more difficult for me to find a Japanese speaker in America. They might be in some places, but maybe some like rural country area of Texas or Oklahoma or something like that. There's going to be more people that maybe find it difficult to find a Japanese speaker to practice with. So if you can think about, how do I practice? How do I meet people to practice with by thinking about your interest? And you can easily do that online first. Then it doesn't matter if you're actually in the same area as these people or not. It's because you can find them online no matter where you live. Anyway, that's what I'd like you to think about. That's the message I will leave you with today. Whatever you'd rather be doing than studying, Do that in English. And that's how you get fluent. So just practice that thing and start finding people that way. Stop looking for English practice partners. Look for like sailing practice partners. Look for soccer practice partners. Look for all these other people. And that's the same way I found my gardening practice partner. And I stopped worrying about the language and started using it little by little because we cared more about the thing we were using the language for. Keep these ideas in mind, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it wasn't too boring and you actually want to give this a like. And if you're not already a subscriber to our channel, I highly recommend you subscribe so you can get access to new videos as soon as they're released. And as always, as soon as this video gets to 10,000 views or more, I'll release the next one. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. To continue learning, click on the link in this video to download Speak English Naturally, our free guide to speaking and sounding like a native English speaker. The guide reveals the 3 most important kinds of conversational English you must learn if you want to sound native, and will help you experience instant improvement in your fluency and speaking confidence. To download your free guide on a mobile device, click on the link in the upper right of this video. To download your free guide from a computer, click on the link in the lower right of this video. I look forward to seeing you in the guide.